Hi, everybody. My name is Cynthia Kane, and I want to welcome you to this first of two tutorials for your LI801 classes, and also for some different things that I hope will help you with other classes as you get a little bit more into your SLIM curriculum. I also had the honor of being the librarian liaison for the School of Library and Information Management. So when we finish this tutorial, I'm going to make sure that you have my contact information so that you can always call me or email me, or if you prefer, we can set up an online real-time research consultation using the program that I'm actually using right now to record this video tutorial. It's Zoom, and it's a good way of taking care of some things right then and there. We can share screens back and forth and probably solve some research problems for you within a few minutes. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screens with you as we go along with this tutorial. And part of what we're going to be covering today in this tutorial is showing you how to use our library and information science databases effectively for your LI801 assignment, which is to choose a topic and create an annotated bibliography. And you will also be using the same topic for your LI810 assignment. And so what I will be doing is showing you how to find references to articles, how to locate the full text if something doesn't happen to be available immediately online in full text, and also how to do interlibrary loan and document delivery for articles that might be available only in print in the Emporia campus library or might not be available through our campus library either in print or in electronic form. I am using for today the Mozilla Firefox browser, but in reality, any browser that you're comfortable with will work for what we're going to be doing for our research needs. You could start in a variety of places to get to the University Libraries and Archives homepage. If you already happen to be in Canvas for your other SLIM courses, there is a link on the campus page for Libraries and Archives. You can click on that, and that will take you directly to the library's webpage. You can also start at www.emporia.edu, scroll down to the bottom of the screen, and click on Libraries and Archives, and that will take you to the University Libraries and Archives homepage. If you prefer, and I often do this as well, you can just type in library.emporia.edu, and that address will redirect you to the library's webpage as well. So it's just whatever you're comfortable with. You might also want to bookmark the library's webpage on the browser of your choice, so you can always get back to that later on. For today, I'm going to be looking at actually 4 different tabs that we have on the Libraries and Archives webpage: Discovery Search, Databases, Journals, and finally Research Guides. So what are the differences among these particular tabs? Each one will do something different depending on what it is that you're looking for and how far you are in your information search. For example, the Discovery Search. That is the equivalent of our library's online catalog. So if I needed to find books, for example, that were owned by the Emporia Campus Library, I would use the Discovery Search to see what we had. And by the way, if we do have books that you are interested in as a distance education student, you can request that those books be checked out to you from the campus library and then mailed to your home address. So that's something to keep in mind as well. The Discovery Search basically is a good one to use if, again, you are looking for items that are owned by a library. I do not use the Discovery Search, though, for articles. And the reason is, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to be doing a topic search today for public libraries and assessment. So that's going to be the topic that I use for the rest of our examples in this tutorial. So I'm going to click on Discover It. And you'll see that I find a variety of things that are owned by the Emporia Campus Library. Something, though, to be aware of if you're using the Discovery Search, this is actually using a system that's called WorldCat WMS, or World Share Management Service. Some of that may sound familiar to you if you're currently working in a library and are familiar with different library systems or different library automation systems that underlie the online catalog and then other parts of your library's operations. The WorldCat WMS, tends to default directly to libraries worldwide. That basically means that anything that is held first by Emporia State University will pop up first in your search, and then from that point it will keep resorting into items that are not owned by the Emporia library, but then are owned by other libraries worldwide. So you can do an interlibrary loan request for those as well. But as I noted, this is why I don't tend to use the discovery search when I'm looking for articles. Look over here on the left side of the screen. All formats are currently being searched for that topic that I put in of public libraries and assessment. Now, the problem with this is that I can find articles, but it looks like there might be over 13,000 articles. Well, remember, we're searching everything. We are searching so much information right now that that's going to be far too much to go through, and it really is not going to get to your information need when you are looking for items for articles for your annotated bibliography. So to do that, we are going to go to this next tab, Databases. And a lot of you may be familiar by this point with electronic databases to find references to articles and then sometimes the full text. If you've done a lot of this in your undergraduate curriculums or if you've been in graduate school for other disciplines. Essentially, this is what electronic databases do. They will help you find references and kind of take you to the full text of magazines, journals, newspapers, sometimes dissertations, theses. It just depends upon the type of database. I like to, on this screen, click on all subjects, and then I like to scroll down to the library and information science category. And the reason I do that is that I really want to focus now upon the databases that are owned by our library that are specifically for library and information science. And as you see, we do have quite a few to choose from. A lot of these you will be using as you get deeper into your SLIM curriculum and you start specializing a little bit more in different areas, maybe children's libraries, for example. Now, the two that we're going to focus on today for your annotated bibliography are Library Literature and Information Science Full Text and LISTA, which is Library, Information Science, and Technology Abstracts. The reason we're going to be doing two databases is that these are not necessarily the same. They sound very similar. However, one database might index and include references to journals that the other one doesn't include, and vice versa. And you're going to see in a little bit how different our search might be for that same topic, public libraries and assessment. So we're going to start first with Library Literature and Information Science Full Text. Now, I'm actually doing this recording from my home, and I will tell you a little secret right now. I live maybe about 5 blocks from the Emporia campus and from our campus library, but for all intents and purposes, I'm off campus. So when I click on a database, this is what I will see, and this is what you will see as well when you are searching at home or somewhere else. Basically, this is going to ask you to authenticate yourself as someone who is affiliated with Emporia State University. Now, I've done this before, so my browser is set up to remember my Buzzin username, ckane1, and then I just need to type in my Buzzin password. And I really don't want that to remember it, but I could if I wanted to. Now, another little trick when you're searching. As long as you do not close your browser session, you can now go from one database to another without having to log back in with your Buzzin username and password. So that's kind of a nice little trick to know about. Whenever you have a choice in a database to go from a basic to an advanced search, always choose the advanced search, especially when you are at this point in your graduate curriculum, in graduate studies. And the reason is that an advanced search is going to let you set up your searching parameters before you even put in your topic. It's going to help you narrow and focus your search much more effectively. So, for the example that I want to use for this tutorial, we want to limit our search at this point to scholarly peer-reviewed journals. And to make it even more specific, we're going to say that we want the publication type of academic journal. Now, you might be thinking at this point, well, isn't that what I'm getting in this database? I mean, it's about library literature and information science. Well, here's another way to think about this. Many periodicals that will be included in databases can be general magazines, and they can also be something called trade publications or professional publications. A good example in our discipline would be the periodical American Libraries. That is the official publication of the American Library Association. So if you belong to ALA, you'll be getting an issue of that every month. Excellent periodical, very, very useful for current information, current news in the field of library and information science. But the articles in American libraries are not reviewed. They are not vetted. They're just more like newsworthy articles, such as you might find in a more general periodical. The thing on that is, a trade periodical or a trade publication like that, or a professional publication, is not really what you want at this point for your annotated bibliography. You want scholarly, peer-reviewed journal articles, which means that when an article is submitted to one of those journals, there's usually something called a blind review process. All the identifying information about that article is stripped out, and then usually at least 2 or perhaps more than 2 reviewers who are experts in that field will read that draft of that article, and then they will send their notes back about anything that maybe needs to be clarified or maybe something that needs to be rewritten. That's called the review process. That's the peer-reviewed process. And that's what we want right now. So that's why we did our limits. Now there's another limit over here that I'm not going to do, even though it's very tempting. And that's limit your results by full text. The reason I'm not going to do that limit is that unless it's specified that a database is 100% full text, usually in a database, you're going to find references or citations to items that are not available in that specific database in full text. However, it might be available through another database. Or we might have access to a subscription to the electronic journal version. So if you are limiting your results just to full text, you're probably going to wind up ruling out a lot of really useful information that might be available still by doing just a little bit more searching. And I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So we're going to go back up here. I am going to be doing something called a keyword search. And keywords are terms that we identify from our topic that could be searched in different fields in the bibliographic record. When you start getting more into cataloging classes, this will make a lot more sense. But you notice something I did right here? I said that I want to limit my search just to keywords that are in the abstracts of these articles. So these articles will contain abstracts that you can use to help you evaluate the relative usefulness of that article for your information need. But if I'm searching for keywords right in the abstract, the great thing about that is it will focus my search a little bit more rather than just searching the complete bibliographic record and then finding items that might mention my terms but are really not that relevant for my information need. So we're going to go back up here now. And let's start with public libraries. You're going to notice something that I am doing here, which those of you who have searched a lot with Google or other search engines on the internet, that's going to look familiar. Notice that I put public libraries in double quotation marks. The reason for that is that I want that term, public libraries, to be searched as one phrase rather than public here and then libraries over here in another part of the abstract. So that's going to force that search to make those terms be together as a phrase. So that's kind of a nice little extra thing to do. And we're going to put assessment down here. Notice that I have the word and. The word and is very crucial. That's called a Boolean operator, and or not. The word and will say that you want something and something else in your search for information. The word or might mean that you would want something or something else, public libraries or academic libraries. The word not can eliminate terms from your search, but sometimes you want to be really careful with that, because if you said that you wanted something not something else, you might wind up losing some potentially useful references. So I tend to use the word not pretty carefully. So this one is going to be a fairly basic search. We'll click on search. And I have a fairly manageable result of records, 27 records to be exact. So this is reminding me again of the limits that I did. And remember, I said that unless a database is guaranteed to be 100% full text, you are going to find some citations that do not have the full text attached. Record number 1 is a good example of that. Record number 2, in contrast, does have the PDF full text. So I could click just even directly on that particular full text, and then I can read that on the screen, or I could save it. If I have a printer and prefer a hard copy, I could print it out as well. Let's navigate back to the result list. And let's keep going here. Well, those are looking kind of interesting so far. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to click on one of these examples. And on this next screen, I want to show you a couple of different things that you can do with this search. As long as I am staying in this search in the library literature database or other databases that have this option, I can come over here to something called Add to Folder. And I like to do this when I'm searching. I don't even have to be signed in or logged in to do this. In this particular search, I could keep clicking on items that I wanted to add to a folder. And then when I finished, I can go up here to Folder. This will only have one item so far because I've only added one item. But I could email all of those results simultaneously to myself, or if I were working with a group, or if I wanted to share something with my professor, I could email results to other people as well. And by the way, when you do this, the associated PDF full text that's available for those items will also be sent. So that's a good way of doing a lot of searching at one time and then sort of saving that until you're ready to do something with those results. Kind of a good way of managing your search for information. So we're going to go back. There's another feature over here that's pretty common with a lot of databases nowadays. Sometimes it's called Cite, and sometimes it's called Citation Tools. In this case, this is called Cite with this particular interface. When I click on this, you will notice that the citation for this article was actually converted into APA style or another style. Now, we're going to be going over this a little bit more in our next tutorial, which will deal with the basics of APA style. But this is where you really do have to be careful, because look what happened here. These words in the title of the article are capitalized. Now, in the American Psychological Association, or APA style, which is what we use in the SLIM curriculum, the words of titles of articles are generally in lowercase, except for the first word of a title, or in other cases, when I go back here to the result list, and if I scroll back up and go to Cite again for this one, you'll notice that in this particular one, we had some extra letters for the person's first name, the initials of the person's first name. Those were added, and that happened in our other example as well. Now that means that with these particular references that have happened with the Cite feature, I could easily copy and paste that into an annotated bibliography or into a draft of the paper, but I'm going to have to do a lot of editing. I'm going to have to get rid of those extraneous letters, for example, and I'm also going to have to capitalize or actually put in lowercase. I'm going to have to change these and put these words in lowercase. And I probably need to check everything else just to make sure that APA is 100% correct. So why did that happen? Well, when we go back to the result list, If you look again at the original record number 4, and some of these others as well, notice that these words are capitalized. That's called the metadata. So the bibliographic record actually contains the metadata of that particular article. The author is a field for metadata. The title of the article is another field for metadata. And with a database like this, with its citation tools or cite feature, it's just bringing over that data exactly as it appeared in the original bibliographic record. That means that you have got to proofread your citations very, very carefully. It doesn't mean that you can't use cite or citation tools, but you really do want to be careful to make sure that it's actually going to be correct, or if you need to do some editing. I deal with this with undergraduate students all the time at the Emporia campus library, so don't want you to run into any problems or any difficulties that way. And as I said, the basics of APA style and then some help features we will cover in our tutorial about APA style basics, which you'll be watching as well. Well, like I said, this is not a bad search. But I'm going to go back here to record number 4 for just a second. I like that, but as you can see, I don't have either the PDF full text or the linked full text available for this. Well, this is what I'm going to advise you to do next. I'm going to open up another tab, and I can just click on this window since I already had it up here. But another trick that I use when I search, and I really advise you to do this, is to keep another tab open back to the library's webpage. And the reason is you don't want to lose your results by going back and forth and then realizing that you need to start your search all over again. Nobody wants to do that. But if you keep another tab open, this is what's going to help you with this next part. I am now going to take the title of the journal. And you see sometimes that can be a little bit of a challenge on copying, but we're going to copy the title of the journal. And now we're going back to the library's webpage. I'm now going to click on a tab called Journals. And the thing to keep in mind here is that I am now wanting to see if the Emporia Campus Library has access to the full text of this journal somewhere else, maybe either in print or in electronic form. Now, this is a good one to take a look at because you notice that I actually have 2 possibilities here. Let's click on the first one. Well, it looks like this journal, Evidence-Based Library and Information Practice, is available in a collection that's called Open Journal Systems. But here's the challenge, and I really cannot emphasize this enough. Look very carefully to see the years that are available. This one is available from 2007 to 2013, but when I go back here, look at this. I actually need an issue from 2014, so that link isn't going to do me any good. However, I do have another choice. And if you have more than one choice for an electronic journal when you're doing this search on the journals link, check them very carefully, again, because one may be accurate and have the full text you need where another one might not. And indeed, this is a good example. This one is available from a collection called Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ for short. So I'm going to click on this journal. This is also a really great example of something called open access. You might have heard this term. If not, you'll be talking about this quite a bit in your SLIM curriculum. In this case, open access journals can also be very scholarly and peer-reviewed, but they are freely and openly accessible to anyone, as opposed to a library or an individual paying a lot of money for a subscription to that specific journal. That's a big topic right now in terms of scholarly communication and freedom of information. So this is a good example of an open access journal. Now remember, I needed 2014, so I need to go to Archives, and I believe that was Volume 9, number 4 for 2014, and we'll go down here. And there it is, Researching the Economic Contribution to Public Libraries. So that was pretty easy to find. And you see again why I say when you're doing a search, do not limit yourself just to the full text in that specific database. That's one I would have missed otherwise. So let's go back here. I am going to hold down my mouse button and go back to my A to Z list of databases. And just real quickly, we're going to do that same search in LISTA, Library Information Science and Technology Abstracts. As I indicated earlier, since I haven't left my browsing session, you notice that I was not asked to log back in with my buzzed-in username and password. Back to the advanced search. Same types of limits that we've done before. We want scholarly peer-reviewed journals. We want our publication type to be academic journal. We're going to limit to an abstract. And we're going to do the same search, putting public libraries in double quotation marks. And put assessment here. Make sure that's all set up and click on search. And you're going to notice something a little bit different. Remember I had 27 references earlier in the other database? In LISTA I had 73. So again, do you see why I really encourage you to do your search in both databases? Not only for this assignment for your annotated bibliography, but also for other assignments, because I'm going to wind up picking up some possible articles here that I didn't necessarily find in the first database, and vice versa. Some of them will be the same, because we see some titles that look familiar. There's the one we were looking for. And as you see, we also sometimes will have the PDF full text or the linked full text, which actually will link to the full text from another database. So that can happen from time to time as well. And this uses the same interface as the library literature database. EBSCOhost is the name of the vendor that does this interface, which means that I can do a lot of the same things that I've done with the library literature database. I can add these to a folder and then email them or print them out all at once. And I have the same cite feature, but again, we do have to make sure that everything is correct and accurate. Well, another thing I wanted to show you, let's go back here to home. So let's say that you've been doing your search and you went to the Journals tab to see if something happened to be available. If you find a journal, and this can happen from time to time, that looks like it is only available in print from William Allen White Library, you can actually request that a copy of that article be scanned in PDF and sent to your g.emporia.edu address. And by the way, that is what we use. So really make sure that you're using your g.emporia.edu address, because we use that as our official communication to you. You could also request an interlibrary loan for an article that is not available through the Emporia library, either in print or in electronic form, and that will happen from time to time. So to do both of those, either a scanned print copy of something we own or an interlibrary loan request, you will click on Request an Interlibrary Loan and put in your buzzed-in username and password. I remembered mine. And probably not for right now. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. If you have never used interlibrary loan, or what we call document delivery, before through ESU, you're going to get a screen right before this one. And that screen will ask you to set up your personal information, including your mailing address in case we need to mail a book to you as well. And I've already done this, so that would be the next screen that I would get once that personal information is all set up. If you wanted to do a document delivery request or an interlibrary loan request for an article or for a book, click on the appropriate form over here, and then just complete that. If you are asking for a print copy of an article that we own to be scanned and then sent electronically to you, I would ask that in this notes field, please make a note that you are an ESU distance education student, and then that way we know that you're eligible for this particular document delivery option. Do that for books as well, and then that way we know that you, again, you're eligible for that, and then we'll get that information to you. If you're requesting a book that's owned by the Emporia Campus Library, you would just click on New Request for a Book. And if you would, under the notes, again, indicate that you're a distance education student. If you're doing this request from the library catalog, please make a note too of the call number of the book, and then that way we'll have that information and we can get that out to you. The turnaround time is really pretty quick for articles in particular. I would say within about a 24-hour time period during a normal business week of Monday through Friday. Mailing, that might take a little bit longer because it depends upon the U.S. mail. But normally we try to get things out in a pretty timely fashion to you. And everything that we have covered for today is actually available in a research guide that I've written for library and information management resources. To access that, you can go back to the library's webpage and click on Research Guides. And you can type in Library. Scroll down a little bit here and click on Library and Information Management Resources. And again, everything that I have talked about today will be reinforced in this document. So you can go to another tutorial for library literature full text, and I go into some other things in there as well, basically reinforcing what we did in this one. I also show you how to search the library catalog, periodicals, other electronic resources. So again, you can always return to this research guide if you want a reinforcement of everything that we covered in this tutorial. And you can also find this one at emporia.beta.libguides.com/slim. And finally, if you go back to the library's webpage, click on About, and click on About Us. And then click on a button called Library Directory. This is a list of all the faculty and staff that work at the university libraries and archives. You can contact any of us for questions, depending on the type of research question that you have. If you wish to contact me, I'm available at ckane1, numeral 1, at emporia.edu. And you can also call me at 620-341-5480. I have voicemail, so if you want to leave me a voicemail, I'll be sure and get back with you. And as I indicated at the beginning of this tutorial, if you would want to set up a personal online research consultation through this method, Zoom, we can share our screens back and forth and I can help you with any research need that you might have. Thank you so much for listening and watching this tutorial. Again, we have another one scheduled for you to take a look at that will cover the basics of APA style and also how to get started with a free bibliographic software program called Zotero, which helps you download citations from online sources and organize your information and manage your research a little bit more effectively. Again, good luck with your assignment. Looking forward to meeting you virtually. Take care. Bye-bye.